So our next speaker, please. Carolyn Mitchell is a passionate advocate for empowering individuals to unlock their full potential and lead fulfilling, beg your pardon, I can't speak today, purposeful lives. With more than 16 years of experience across diverse industries, Carolyn has honed her experience in building capable, confident and self-belief, helping people achieve both success, both personally and professionally. Her work centres around supporting individuals and organisations in creating environments that inspire joy, growth and lasting fulfilment. At the REA Group, Carolyn drives talent acceleration programs. Love to hear more about that. Leadership initiatives, wellbeing strategies and cultural transformation projects. Please make her welcome, Carolyn Mitchell.
Thank you. You know you've made it when you've got theme music to arrive somewhere from the side of the room, but thank you. Great choice, everybody. My name's Carolyn Mitchell. I have the pleasure and privilege to talk to you all today about something I'm incredibly passionate about, and that is leadership. Leadership has such an incredible impact on lives. To the point that Nick was making just a moment ago, the number one biggest influence on your mental health is your leader. Now, as leaders in the room, all of a sudden, we're paying attention. How we lead, the experiences people have of us, not only influence their health and well-being, their performance, their careers, it changes their lives. But more than that, it changes business. Great leadership shouldn't be left to accident. Who here has a leadership strategy or a people strategy for their business? Who's got a business strategy or a financial strategy? Yeah. You can't effectively have one without the other unless you're about to be in business that doesn't involve people. And so if you want your differentiating factor, if you want to continue to grow and scale, you need to be really conscious and purposeful about leadership and teams in your business. Whether you have 3 team members or you've got 400 team members, whether you're in one office or based across 46 offices, being conscious in your leadership, the kinds of conditions that you provide in your team environment, how people leave at the end of the day, how they leave feeling, what they're thinking on a Sunday night with their families makes a difference, not just to how they feel, but to how they perform. High employee engagement, so this is according to Gallup's latest meta-analysis in 2024, across a whole bunch of studies across the entire world, all industries, says that if you can raise employee engagement, so that sense of advocacy for your business, connection, energy around your business, it has real and tangible impact in every facet of your business. So a few, just to give you a bit of a taste, that this goes beyond the warm and fuzzies. Those organisations that have in the top quartile employee engagement versus the lowest quartile see an increase by 10% in customer satisfaction and loyalty. They see an 18% increase in sales efficiency and effectiveness. 23% increase in profitability and a 70% difference in well-being. And we've just heard from Nick about how critically important that is to our business. Healthy people means healthy business. So if you're not paying attention to this, there's a real opportunity for you to start turning your mind to weigh up the balance of business and financial strategy and people and performance strategy. How can they come together? We like to think of it at the REA Group as a bit like an aeroplane, the twin engines of a plane. Investing all of our time in our business strategy, we're not going to fly particularly far with only that. So it's our culture and our people that is the second engine that helps us get to great and outstanding results. I'm going to talk to you today I could talk to you all day about this because, again, thank you to Nick. I feel like I've quoted you more than anyone so far in this presentation. But Nick said a coach challenged him to find your hobby and make it your job. I feel like that nailed this for me. I am a super geek about this stuff. I live and breathe it. But let me tell you, it's not just about research and understanding this from a theoretical point of view. I've also been an employee, and let's face it, we've all been exposed to great leaders and poor leaders and everything else in between. So we've got the school of life. I've also been a business owner. I have been a leader myself across my career, and I've been a consultant. Right now, I'm in-house and loving every minute of it, can I tell you. No longer running my business. I've got a bit of free time up my sleeve. So with the same habits, you will end up with the same results, but with better habits, anything is possible. So this is an opportunity to think about when your business is humming and it's working, that is exactly the time to look at dialing things up. What might you change? Now, it might not be an overhaul, but it's actually looking for that 1 or 2% to make a difference. Small things done consistently can add up to make a great difference in your business over the long term when it comes to your people. There's a few things I'm going to talk to you about today, and it's really getting to 5 key messages that leadership is a mindset. Absolutely. My true belief is we are all leaders, regardless of role and title and salary. But it's about action. We've got to translate that mindset, those good thoughts, those inspiring ideas into boots on the ground. How does this work and translate every day? So I'm going to have some simple things that you can be doing to take away, to put in your toolbox, ready to make sure that 2025 you've got twin engines for your business running. We know that great leaders that have impact in their business and on people consciously create their leadership legacy. That means you know the kind of leader you want to be, and you have the actions, behaviours and habits aligned to that. And they happen every single day. We know that great leaders clearly define, articulate and lead high-performance teams. Who here reckons they could define high performance? 1 sentence. It's a word we use a lot. It sounds great. It's kind of inspiring. We've got a good sense. It's got a massive postcode. So we've got to get really clear around, in your business, what does high performance look like? What gets rewarded gets repeated, and what doesn't get any attention gets avoided. Great leaders passionately grow themselves and their people. That old adage, when do I stop learning about this leadership stuff? The truth is, when you die. Right? We are constantly changing internally through our life experiences, the things that we're consuming, experiences that we have, people that we know. But so's the outside world. How we led teams 20 years ago is vastly different to the expectations now. And we are about to have the highest number of generations across the workforce very soon. So there's lots of different styles and adaptability for us to cater for the needs of those coming through, but also those existing in our business. Great leaders skillfully cultivate the conditions for high performance. You can't take a brilliant person, put them in a poor and dysfunctional culture, and expect them to deliver high performance results and impact. Our environment makes a difference, and we know that while leaders are not solely responsible for that, leaders make an enormous difference in influencing the environment. And finally, great leaders don't hold on to all of the leadership behaviours, information, insights, ideas and tools. They give it generously. So growing the kind of leadership capability and behaviours in your team through your team. Leadership, self-leadership, should be showing up in every part of your business with every person in your business. So I'm going to talk to you in a little bit of detail about these 5 key messages today, with some ideas and ways that you might start bringing that to life in really practical ways. So thank you to the beautiful Jane Goodall for this quote. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Now, I often talk to people as I'm coaching, and I want to make a difference in the world or in the business or make a change. What exactly do you want that to be? It's pretty hard for us to find the route and to navigate to a destination we haven't yet defined. So being really clear and purposeful. I often come across, don't get me wrong, like some very brilliant but accidental leaders. Who here got their first role as a people leader just simply by promotion? No training, no questions, just here's a great opportunity. That was mine. This is a great development opportunity. You know, here's a $5 million budget and 6 people you're now responsible for. You'll sign a few leave forms, back when they were paper, and that will be about it. So we're consciously not usually getting into leadership, let alone the training doesn't often start happening for years to come, and we've got the school of hard knocks often. We're often learning about leadership by the kinds of leaders we've been exposed to before, and that is the good, bad, and the ugly. But most of the time, we're kind of just guessing. We're doing the best we can, trying to be great humans, influencing other great humans. Now, I wouldn't like to rest my business on just having a crack. Being really purposeful and knowing the kind of leader you want to be allows you greater empowerment in your business and greater growth. We heard earlier, again, Nick, I might be fangirling a little bit here, given I've quoted you so many times, but Nick talked about that sense of when we're well as a leader, we know what's going on for us, where the balance is in all aspects of our life. We're able to project out greater balance, resilience, and advice for people when we're coming from a steady centre. So for me, I talk to our leaders about leadership is from the inside out. Yet there's plenty of people out there that will charge you thousands of dollars to tell you, go and deliver this method, go and do it this way, speak to this person and tell them that, use this language, without doing the work on ourselves, which is inefficient and it's unsustainable. It's got to be genuine and authentic. Who here's tired? Yep, absolutely, and I'm probably between you and lunch as well, so you're probably getting that dip too. But when we're tired, on the days where it's not gone right or according to plan, or the kids have vomited in the car on the way to school and work and those sorts of things, we need to be able to rely on ourselves, know who we are, and have the strategies in place to deal with it, to bounce back and to have some resilience. Building self-trust and confidence comes from knowing who we are, and particularly as a leader. So being really clear about your purpose. Now, you might have a purpose for your business, but what's your personal purpose as a leader? What kind of difference do you want to make? What drives you? What are the conversations that light you up, that get you excited? When is there a day you look at somebody in your team and you're incredibly proud of them? How do you know you've done a great job? We need to know what drives us, to tap into it, and it helps fuel our success over the long term. Be really clear about your values. I spend a lot of time with leaders trying to articulate what these are. Now, this isn't customer service, integrity, learning, or it could be, but going through this isn't supposed to sound or look impressive to anybody, but what are your core values? And there should be around 3 of them. Now, for people like me, I'll go through a list and I'll come up with about 18, and they're all very important. But that's a lot of things to hold in our mind every day. So where do we start to sift those into patterns and ways of coming back to what's really core? The reason why values are important is it's not just what drives us and understanding how we navigate the world, but allows us for greater decision making. What would be in alignment with my values? What would be the decision here that allows me to be brave or wholehearted? So greater decision making, self-trust, but the other kicker here is that it allows people to know and understand us better. Our brains love predictability. And I tell you what, humans can be pretty unpredictable from time. Anyone had an unpredictable leader? Yes, there's a very strong yes, so it sounds like it might have been an experience that stayed with you for some time. So people want to know how to navigate life, what to expect, and relative consistency, and to be able to predict behaviour, outcomes, and decisions. Our values allow us to do that. And each time I take on a new team or I bring on a new team member, I sit down and talk to them about my values and how this shows up in my leadership. And here's what you can expect from me. Please share with me too, what are your values? What's most important to you? So this is really important to help us navigate life, because I can tell you our values exist whether we've articulated them or not. Anyone been absolutely outraged and pissed off beyond belief? Instantly. Oh, where are the redheads in the room? Come on, help me out here. That's when something's been violated from our values. A need has not been met. So they run in the background, whether we're conscious of them or not, and I'd much rather have them in the front seat, know who I'm travelling with, rather than have them in the back seat and catch me unawares in my business. And we want to have a really clear leadership identity. This means you know the kind of leader you want to be and the kind of leader you are. You can use that for yourself to help hold yourself accountable to the highest standards, but it also means, again, you can share that with others and the predictability that comes with that. Now, when we're clear about our leadership identity, this allows us a choice. We've got home base. We can start to think on a daily basis around the kinds of actions, decisions, language, conversations that we're having that might be a towards move. That means a move that takes us towards the kind of leader we are or want to be, towards living our values in alignment, and to being really conscious and purposeful in our leadership. It also allows us to navigate when we're making away moves. Has anyone made a decision or regretted language they've used, missed a conversation, launched into one too soon, and thought, geez, it just doesn't feel right on the other side? These towards and away moves allow us to come back to really aligned, conscious and purposeful leadership. Without that home base, we're really an accidental leader, doing the best we can most of the time, having some lessons along the way. Now, don't get me wrong, that is perfectly adequate. But when I've run a business before and I've been responsible for people, perfectly adequate doesn't quite cut it for me. So think about, is this an opportunity for you to scale your business, being really clear on what your leadership legacy is? So you've all got an activity. You don't need homework, because I've only got you in the room right now. I'm going to ask you to take 1 minute, because I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to help get you thinking. I want you, in 30 words or less, on a piece of paper in front of you, that hand-brain connection, use a pen, that starts with, I am a great leader who. Now, Steven Spielberg pitched Jaws in 30 words or less. Airbnb as a concept was pitched in about 28 words, I think. So you can achieve a lot in just 30 words. So take a moment, you'll have 30 seconds of silence and see what you can come up with. All right, about 10 seconds to go. I love the very purposeful pen down. It's like a mic drop. Nailed that activity. What's the next one? All right. Capture any final thoughts, keywords if you need to pop it there. You're not going to nail this usually in about 30 seconds, but it's to give you a bit of an idea. Who struggled to get pen to paper initially and thought, hang on a minute, I haven't thought about this before? Right? Who was like, I've been waiting my whole conference days for someone to ask me this question so I could write it down? Yes, excellent, down the front. Are you feeling brave enough to share with the group what yours might be? Oh, sorry, this was out without notice and without a mic. Sorry, I was being... If you want to stand up. Oh, here we go. We've got a mic. Look how quickly. Thank you so much. Just down the front here. They can run into action. Thank you.
Okay, so my mother is just here and she led me my whole life and she looked at me and said, I don't know what to write. And I just looked at her like, yeah, right, you've literally led me to here. But anyway, I wrote, I'm a great leader who tries to think before she acts. And I've learnt from my bad experiences with directors. And I try to not repeat history for my staff, and I can admit when I'm wrong, because I am often wrong.
Oh, well done. What's your name?
Katrina.
Let's give Katrina a round of applause. It's a pretty profound question, a very simple one, but when you read that, what you've put down on paper there, is it aspirational? Did you kind of have that moment in your gut where you thought, geez, I'd like to be that, but probably just on my good days, and I'm not having too many good days lately? Am I like that on my bad days or my sleepy days? So being really clear and articulating that really helps you to work out your towards moves and your away moves. To be the best leader, my own version of my best leader self, would I have this conversation or not? Would I be clear and kind, or would I kind of dance around it? Would I make a solid decision, or would I put it off and postpone it for a few weeks? Whatever it is, this is yours. And it might be an activity that you can go back to doing in your teams to think about that, work it through. You might even start going out and getting some advice to say, hey, what 3 words would you use to describe my leadership? And let me tell you, it's the people who live with you at home and see you in your jammies in the morning that will give you the most confronting words. They'll be very honest in there too. So go far and wide and think about how are you creating a leadership legacy and being really purposeful about it. And it's important to know what your wake is. If you want to know, if you know now what kind of leader you want to be, does that measure up to reality? Because sometimes intent doesn't always equal impact. Okay? So great leaders set goals for themselves and then they check and measure. So you want to have a listening strategy, and that simply means you're going out and gathering data and feedback around your leadership. You can do that in surveys when you've got large businesses. You can do that in your one-on-ones and conversations. Get creative in the way that you ask people for feedback and advice around your leadership to find out what I'm putting out there, is that what is being felt and experienced by others? If it is, that's great, but you also might learn that there's some opportunities for growth and stretch there for you too. But it really takes mindset of not just, hey, I've got the story, I've got my 30 words or less, I've checked with a few people, I seem to be pretty right. But it's about being intensely curious and hungry about being the kind of leader that you're going to be proud of. The kind of leader that someone in a room in 10 years' time is talking about in the most positive ways. I had the best time of my career when I worked with Maria. And let me tell you about what that experience was like. Every person that interacts with your business, not simply your customers, but your employees, are advocates for your business, or they're turning people away. So make sure that that experience is great and people remember leaders and people that influence their life and their careers. So being really committed and hungry for feedback, getting a little bit uncomfortable and perhaps learning areas where you can be even greater. So think about, after today, I'm going to leave you with 5 questions aligned to those key areas today, is what do you want your leadership legacy to be? What do you want people to be saying about you in 2 years' time, in 3 months' time, when they're gathered around for Christmas? How's your job going? I'll tell you what, I've got the best leader going around. I'm having my time of my life at work. I'm living the best years of my career. That makes a difference. So think about what you legacy want is what you want your legacy to be, and then go after it and chase it every damn day. All right, your team can't be excellent if you're not holding them accountable to the standards you've set. I see this a lot in our work. We openly trust that we hire intelligent people and that they'll just get on with the job in the way that I want them to, or the way that equals success for our business, without being really clear around expectations. Now, this is what I call often stealth expectations. You know, the sorts of ones you have, but you never talked about, and then the other person doesn't meet it or measure up to it, and then you're all a little bit pissed off about it, but not quite sure how to address it. Often happens with my husband. It's where it shows up the most. He's like, why are we crashing around the dishwasher? And why are you restacking it? I'm not sure what I've done. Those sorts of things, you know? Can anyone else relate? Yeah. Got plenty of stories around that. My husband Simon is well aware we talk about this stuff, and he knows I talk to other people about it. It's where leadership shows up the most, right? And sometimes the worst parts of us. So we need to talk about expectations, because once we do, we've been really clear, we've painted the picture of what needs to be done and, importantly, how it needs to be done. That way we can hold people accountable. Now, we often as leaders avoid that accountability conversation because it's uncomfortable. We're trying to be really generous with the other person. We don't want to hurt their feelings. And you know what? I've got to continue to work with them. And then we start to build a bit of resentment. Has anyone had that happen in their business? And can't they just get on and do it? Geez, do I have to have this conversation? And that breaks down trust and relationships, and then start looking at how that influences your culture and team. So being really clear. So the beautiful Brené Brown is famous for saying, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So the uncomfortable conversation around clarity and expectations is critically important. Now, what is often the challenge I find with leaders is when they haven't talked about expectations and holding people accountable, it's because they don't actually know in detail what they expect. It's sort of I know it when I see it, or here's a general black and white picture for it. So you've got to articulate for your business and your team what good, great and elite looks like. Spell it out. If your business is important to you and your people are important to you, don't leave it to guesswork. Be really clear. They can help you do that. And here's a winning formula we have for high performance across industries. We often have the results. Now, results are great because they're often financially driven. They're very clear around capturing that information and data. So, you know, you sold this many houses or you didn't, right? I can have an accountability conversation about that. That's pretty easy. But who just wants people selling houses? Is that just enough for your business? It's not just what they do, it's actually how they do it that is that differentiating factor and your competitive edge. That's what gets your customers coming back. It's what gets you making sure you've got the right people in your business, really engaged and effective. So it's actually results plus behaviour equals high performance. Now, if you think about your business, does this formula fit, or are you a bit of a results equals high performance team? And we see that a lot, and particularly across industries like this. So if it matters to you and you want a high-performance team, you're going to have to talk about behaviour. The thing about that is it's one of the scariest things for humans to talk to other humans about. So we tend to avoid it at all costs, think it will take care of itself, and it inevitably doesn't. So being really clear about the what and the how makes a huge difference, and that's the formula. So we don't really joke because we talk about it. So at REA Group, we use the term brilliant jerks. And that's those people who might be hitting the targets, selling the widgets, getting the things done that they need to do. So they're getting the results, but the way they're doing it is disintegrating trust, breaking down our team cultures. People don't want to come back and engage with them, don't want to collaborate with them. And rather than tolerating brilliant jerks because they can get the numbers up in the results, as we say, it's actually just only half the equation and it's not good enough. So we're going to talk about the behaviour, how we do it, that extra special sauce, going above and beyond for our customers, not just the bare minimum. And if we don't see improvement, we're going to talk about if this is the right place for you. It comes in under other terms before. I think I heard someone say you call them gorillas in the office. Is that a thing? Yeah, okay. Anyone got a gorilla? Used to? Yeah. Like them in the revision mirror, don't we? But we need to be able to break it down, separate them, but know that it is part of the equation. So for you, what are the behaviours and the results that you need your people working to consistently? If you're unable to articulate them, you sure can't share them, and you really can't hold people accountable to it. Okay? This also means when you're recruiting new people into your business, you're really clear about the kind of person, the way that they operate, their ways of working that you need to hire for. Anyone had a bad hire before based on behaviour? Yep. You'll be really clear. It costs you a fortune, highly stressful, and impacts the entire team. You've got some recovery time. So this is what we need to be focused on, articulate it. So I talked about having a people strategy or a leadership strategy. This is the stuff, it doesn't need to be, you don't need to get a consultant in for thousands of dollars. This is the stuff I'm talking about. Simple, everyday stuff, being able to articulate the things that we take for granted and that we don't talk about. So what gets rewarded gets repeated. So when you see the kinds of behaviours and results that you're after, let people know that they've done, something awesome and amazing. We love to hear that. We get a beautiful dopamine hit, and that means we're more motivated to re-engage in that kind of behaviour in the future. What gets punished gets avoided. So when you say to someone, hey, the way that you spoke to this person kind of wasn't good enough, or you failed to take care of the details around this, and that left our new buyers feeling, less than special, whatever it is, you're able to really articulate those things and people will start to avoid it. Now, we don't reward behaviour that you don't want to see repeated. So again, being really clear. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept in your business. So if you're not dealing with it, you're no longer in the driver's seat. The passengers of the car are driving it. So get in front of it, inspire people, let them know what they can work towards, let them know that they're part of something bigger than themselves. We all really just need a mental break, don't we? When we know exactly what's expected of us, how, when, and why that's important. People need to feel appreciated. So one of the greatest ways that you can drive up employee engagement is that when people are working at something they care about, that they know it's making a difference. It doesn't cost you anything. It can be a simple face-to-face conversation in the kitchen. It can be a text message, a quick phone call on the way home. It doesn't cost you anything, but it will drive up employee engagement and commitment, a brand advocacy, but also the kinds of behaviours you want. Because all of a sudden, people are starting to look sideways at their peers. And when they're lifting the bar, other people are going to have to start lifting too. So as we all take a step up together, your business scales, it grows, and you're reaching greater potential. So to deliver high performance impact, what do your people need to be doing more of? Right? And what do you need them to be doing less of? 30-second break to look to the person next to you and have one answer for each of these. What do your people need to do more of or less of? All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, wrapping up those quick chats. Now, I heard a lot of talking in the room, and that tells me you didn't have a lot of thinking time. So that tells me you already knew the answer to have something to share. So if you could come up with something in 30 seconds and talk about it, the next question to ask is, what am I doing about that? If the answer's nothing, then 2025 is going to be your year to take action in that direction. Go away and start thinking about that with your other leaders, the people you trust and respect in your business. Get your teams talking about it. For 2025 to be the most incredible year yet, what do we need to do more of and less of? Get away from the technical components of your roles and start talking about the kinds of behaviours that will really leverage great outcomes. You need to have, we know that great teams talk about feedback. Elite teams are feedback hungry. So if we look to the sporting arenas, medical fields, for surgeons, chefs, and in the arts, ballet dancers, rowing teams, etc. The difference with them is they couldn't imagine performing and not getting feedback immediately and straight away. You come off stage, you've got show notes waiting for you. You have a huddle to talk about surgery, like what worked, what didn't work, where's the feedback? And it's seen not as something to be feared or as a reprimand, but as an opportunity to grow. So it's more than just exchanging feedback or having performance reviews. It's how do we create a feedback-hungry culture where your teams are looking for it, they're expecting it, and they want it. Because I can tell you, it's also a lot quicker and easier to deliver feedback to people who want it. All right? So reframe it as growth and advice. So talk early, talk small, and talk often. This is the way that you can transform performance in your business. Years ago, I worked in human resources, and people would get to my office by the time things were so far gone. Relationships had broken down, people were unwell, no longer coming to work. It's now becoming a legal issue. When you start tracking back, this had been going on for a year. And there were just missed opportunities for conversations. Small, easy conversations we could have had. Because who here's had a problem that they ignored and it got better all on their own? If you've worked that out, let me know. But it doesn't quite work like that in life. So if you can talk about it when it's a small issue and to be doing that regularly, it means it doesn't become a big issue. Right, that starts impacting your culture, your team's overall performance, your mental health and well-being as stress levels. So a little mantra around talk early, talk small, and talk often really helps balance out our weeks and our years so that there's not these big spikes in our weeks where we're going out and delivering it, but it's coaching and things that we do every day. When you're going out there to give feedback as a leader, you should be inviting it twice as much as you are giving it. Because who wants to receive feedback from someone who can't take it? Now, again, Brené Brown calls that the cheap seats. Those people sitting up the back, kind of heckling, letting you know what you should be doing better, rather than the people in the arena with you going, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give it, but I'm prepared to take it. In fact, I value it. I want your advice. Tell me how I can be better. How can we transform our business? Where's our next opportunity for innovation? Finding someone who loves AI and creating these efficiencies we heard about from Daniel earlier today. Your people, they care about your business. Let them care about you, and that can take a shape of feedback. So find ways to do it and simply do it. I can tell you now, I've been employed for 16 years now to give feedback training. And the requests don't stop coming. People intellectually understand how to give feedback. So more models and tools is not necessarily what's needed, it's more experiences. And you will become better at giving feedback by being on the receiving end of it. You will learn more about giving feedback when you're on the receiving end. What worked, what didn't? What did they do that made me feel supported and respected? That is your opportunity to grow as a leader. All right, so how do you define high performance in your business? How are you going to share that with your teams? And how are you going to hold them accountable through feedback? When they're both doing a great job, you want more of that. You've got that social capital because they see their peers doing it, etc. But also, how do we redirect or change behaviour along the way? So define high performance for your business. All right, one of my favourite quotes, if you spend any time with me, this one is likely to come out. Growth and comfort do not coexist. If you want to grow as a person, as a parent, as a leader, as a business, as an advocate in any aspect of your life, you're going to have to get uncomfortable. Now, the thing about our bodies and our systems is that they're designed to keep us safe in our comfort zone where we know things are humming, there's a lot of predictability, and it's working for us. It's also where we can save energy and resources for us. It's a conscious and active effort to get outside of our comfort zone in the right ways so that we can continue to grow. And again, our people want to see leaders grow. They want to see you getting uncomfortable, pushing yourself, doing things differently. Role model what growth looks like by continuing to learn and share. So we've got here a simple model that we tend to use. So the circles there on the left, you've got that middle yellow zone. That's our comfort zone. That's what we know, love, our great habits around it and experiences. Outside of that, that orange ring, that's our learning or stretch zone, where I get to take a bit of a step out. I haven't done that before or done it once or twice. I'm a bit nervous, a bit anxious about it, maybe even a little bit lost, but I know I'm going to be okay, right? I will survive this. I will not die. In the red ring is our panic zone. That is when someone pulls you out of the audience, sticks you on the stage in front of 600 people and says, speak for the next 50 minutes on something you have no idea about. Quite literally, your brain says you are going to die. This is awful. We don't want people in the red zone, okay? But we want them moving and oscillating between the yellow and the orange zone. The more we get outside of our comfort zone into our stretch zone, what we do is we build experiences where we say, I survived that. That worked for me. Here's what I learnt from that. And what you can see when we move to the other side there, we've got increased confidence and performance, that our comfort zone grows. Something I couldn't do before, I can now do with relative ease and comfort. And the things that used to absolutely terrify me in that panic zone are now simply in my stretch zone. They're not that far outside of what I can do or what's possible. Now, why this is important is because if your people are growing, if you are growing, your business will grow. And the idea here is that we've sort of in businesses and organisations created perfect. Is that we're doing it, we're nailing it, you only learn or you have a development plan when there's a gap or a problem. And it's actually not that at all. So I spent some time earlier this year with Gilbert Anoka from the All Blacks. So he's the mindset coach for the All Blacks, and they've had some incredible success. And he talked about creating the gap, so where I am now to where I want to be, whether that's in a skill, an experience, a role, but you've got to have a gap, right? And that's not a deficit or a problem. It's actually our job and our responsibility for high performance is to have a gap, bridge the gap. Have a gap, bridge a gap. Now, if we don't know what those gaps are, we're not consciously creating them, it makes bridging them a little bit difficult. So this is how you create development plans. When your people say to you, oh, I've got no development on the cards for me, or I haven't really been focused on learning, that should be a red flag for you. When people stagnate, your business will stagnate. That's when we start seeing, we heard the experience before of Chris, where we become inefficient. We stop stretching and growing and moving up. And we start creating these inefficiencies in the way that we do things because we've lost that hunger for the stretch and how we're going to resolve that. So we've got this inner game equation, which is this here is your performance impact. You can also have in there mental health and well-being or well-being overall. And that's made up of potential minus interference, right? We've all got potential, but there's things that might get in our way. So what might run interference for you in your career? I can hear, sorry? Personal issues, relationships, well-being challenges, mental health. What about the story we tell ourselves about things? Imposter syndrome. There's a lot of things that can be running interference. Who here's got a bad habit? Yeah, like 2 hands up, right? And toes in the air. Those are the sorts of things that we take our potential, but if we've got a lot of things running interference, it means the outcome of that is reduced. So what we need to be focused on is if we want to amplify our performance and impact, we need to make sure that we're maximising potential. How are we creating the gap, bridging the gap, but also identifying those barriers or those things that are running interference for us and eliminate them. Where we are talking about mental health and well-being, or we're trying to streamline efficiencies in the office, or maybe it's an AI solution to create an efficiency of something we don't actually need a human to do anymore. But what are the things that are slowing you down or slowing your people down? And as a leader, that's your job. Help them identify what's running interference and help them solve it. That's where great coaching comes into play, and that's what makes great leadership. So where do you need to embrace discomfort and growth? Have you become so efficient and effective and high performing in your business that you can no longer see the gap? Create the gap, bridge the gap, and talk to your people about the gap. Now, if you get the culture right in your teams, in your business, everything else just falls into place. It's a pretty big claim and a big call. But culture makes an enormous difference, and a lot of the time people in businesses are not talking to people like me until they've got a culture problem. Things are dysfunctional, they're no longer working, we've got to go in and diagnose what the issues and challenges are. You probably get charged a lot of money to try and work that out, and yet ultimately you're left to solve it anyway. And so if we're not paying attention to culture, you should be. Now, at REA, we're in a fortunate position. We have a healthy culture, certainly imperfect, but we're looking always for that 1 or 2%. Where can we make a difference? What's the shadow side of some of our strengths? So it's not everything's okay here, systems are off, nothing to see. It's actually always on as your culture evolves and changes. But rather than give you a theory or practice, I wanted you to have a think about across your career, what stands out as a time in your career where you had a leader and a culture that was poor or potentially toxic, all right? Can everyone come up with something like that? Who's had a poor experience in the workplace? Yep, okay, we've got 2 hands up down here. Yeah, 2 hands up over here. All right. There's usually a culture challenge or problem or element of the culture that can be at play there. So have a think about, as you manage that, think about that time, how did you know there was a problem? What were people doing? What were they saying? What were the habits and rituals that made it poor for you? I have seen everything as an answer to this question, including throwing chairs, which was pretty dramatic. But everything else beyond that is we don't talk to people, we're talking about people. You never quite knew if you were doing a good job or not. There was lots of gossip and those sorts of things. Have a think about how did that make you feel? What did it get you thinking? And how did it get you behaving? And what was the impact of that? Did you do the best work of your career? Were you healthy and happy? Were you seeing your friends and family? It has a very real impact. Flip it. Think about the best time in your career you've had and ask yourself the same questions. What you will find out of answering those questions are the sorts of things you want to avoid in your culture and through your leadership, and on the other hand, the kinds of things you want to be investing in. If it meant something to you and you remember it 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later, replicate those behaviours, those actions, those habits and rituals. Ask your teams about this. Get them to help design your culture. Because if you're not designing your culture, it's happening by default. And it makes too much of a difference to your business not to be ahead of it and in charge of it. So how are you cultivating the conditions for excellence? What is the culture that you're after and what's important? And again, we do a lot of work around defining what that looks like down to very specific behaviours, again, back to expectations and what we expect of our leaders and our people. And our final one here is leaders don't create followers, great leaders create more leaders. Now, this is beyond a position title or role change, okay? So I'm not saying go out there tomorrow and promote everyone into a people leader position, but take a look at the behaviours of leadership that you appreciate, the kind of behaviours that equal high performance for you, the sorts of rituals and practices and behaviours that have the culture that are going to help get you the results you're after. And make sure every single person in your team and your business knows it and knows how to live into it. Make a plan. Be really clear around mindset, the capabilities you need to develop, and the habits that you need to create and form. Even as simple as the Thursday morning catch-up we heard before, around the sorts of things that bringing whole of person is important to talk about. We heard an example before. Have a plan for it and go after it. Be an exceptional coach, mentor and role model so that people have the best time of their careers because they'll do the best work of their careers. Make sure that you're motivating people in the ways that work for them. Lead them to be part of something extraordinary. Grow people. Especially our newer generations, they want to work in places where they've seen an evolution in their skills, their capability and mindset. They leave better than when they started. So cultivate curiosity, facilitate new thinking, and support insights to action, getting people to unlock their own potential and to deal with some of that interference. Empower people to create opportunities, get them to fill gaps, innovate, problem solve things that don't have to be you doing it. You might make the ultimate decision, but get people involved. And celebrate and recognise effort, change and growth in your people, and you will begin to see more of it. So how are you growing leadership in your business? Did you want that back? Yeah, sorry. I love just how expressive that was. You got my attention straight away. So how are you growing leadership in your business? How are you articulating it? And what are you doing as an action plan? Remember, you don't need to overhaul your business, your leadership or your teams, but it's small things done consistently that will make up the biggest difference. And a final reminder from where we started today is great leaders create their leadership legacy and they work every day to make it a reality. They clearly define, articulate and lead high performance in their teams. They know what it looks like and what it doesn't look like. They are absolutely committed and passionate to growing themselves, but also growing their people. Extraordinary leaders skillfully cultivate the conditions for high performance. It's not just about having high performance talented individuals, but it's the conditions they're exposed to. And great leaders create more great leaders. So pay it forward, purposefully grow leadership density in your business, and when everyone's growing, lifting and extending, your business absolutely will too. Thank you for listening to me today. I hope you've got some tips in there about how you can hit 2025 with a new stride with those twin engines. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Carolyn.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Judy.
Thank you so very, very much. I think the lesson there for me is that we're constantly learning, right? No matter what element we're doing in our workplace, in our roles, at home, as a friend, as a leader in the business, as a salesperson, we're always learning. And I think we constantly need to evolve as leaders, and we often leave that part behind, right? We just think it's a given, and we practice every other skill that we've got instead of actually stopping to do that leadership piece. So a great reminder this afternoon, really lovely way to add our second last session for the day.